You are comfortably zoned with the Zig Zag Man in Alameda, California, pushing on the doors of life marked pull and fighting the unholy trinity as we go. Big business, organized religion, and government. I am back, and you are comfortably zoned with me, the Zig Zag Man, in Alameda, California, down by the lagoon, where the odor is a bit pungent sometimes, as they say. But that's where the studio is, and it is the 420 studio, and I'm glad you came back, because I have a special guest today. He's a former big league pitcher in the American League, predominantly known as a Yankee, and he's a mutual friend of Marty Appel and I, and his name is Fritz Peterson. Hey, Fritz, what do you hear? What do you say?
Ralph, how you doing out there? I'm jealous with your weather. We're getting a little cold already in the Midwest there.
Well, we've had some rain that was long overdue in the past couple of weeks, but yesterday and today have been very sunny. It gets up into the 60s in the winter here, and I don't blame you for being jealous. Did you settle in Chicago where you were brought up?
Close to there, Ralph. We ended up in Dubuque, Iowa, which is kind of the same weather as Chicago, which I never really minded. I don't know if I could take either Florida or California without the snow unless you lived up in the mountains in California, because I really do like snow. But
my buddy does. Yeah, go ahead.
What'd you say?
I was just going to say my buddy lives up in Syracuse, and he loves the snow. So yeah, I guess it's an acquired taste. I grew up in New York, had my fill of it, and came out here I came out here in '66, just about the time you were breaking into professional baseball.
Okay. And so I heard from the Marty Appel interview that you're a Met fan. How did that happen?
Oh, I don't want that held against me for a Yankee, for a Yankee. But I'm pretty much a Met fan. I have to say, I am a Yankee worshiper. I grew up in the 50s in New York. When I was 10, the Giants had left me. They were my team. And I can't say I rooted for the Yankees, but I can say I was at Yankee Stadium an awful lot. And it doesn't go lost on me that you pitched the last game in the original Yankee Stadium.
Yes. That was a real thrill, too. I wish we could have won it, but in true fashion of those days, we had the lead in the last inning and blew it. So, but it was sure fun to be there, Ralph, and especially in the house that Ruth built, who to me is baseball. He helped our country, he helped our state, he helped the Red Sox, but that's a little unfortunate. But we got him back, so.
Absolutely. You remember he was sold to the Yankees for the money that produced the Broadway play by the owner of the Red Sox, and that play was No Nanette.
Oh wow!
Yeah, just a little trivia there. You grew up in Chicago. Were you a Yankee? Were you a White Sox fan or a Cub fan? You had to be one.
Yes,
or the other.
No, I was a White Sox fan. You're right. You had to be one or the other. Just like in New York, you had to be a Met fan or a Yankee fan. But I had started on the White Sox side in the American League because my father liked the White Sox, and a lot of times kids do what their parents do. And so I was a White Sox fan, and my favorite players were Billy Pierce, a left-hander that wore number 19, and Nelson Fox, or number 2.
Billy Fox, number 2, and Louis Aparicio played short, and Bubba Phillips and Torgerson and Clue and all those guys. That was a great 59 when they beat out the Cleveland Indians. That was one of the best years I can remember in baseball for me as a kid.
Yeah. I imagine it would, being a Met fan, because the Yankees lost it then.
Well, no. The Mets weren't even born then, by the way. And I want to get it out there. Even though you got the needle out, Fritz, I'm still going to mention that of all the pitchers that ever pitched, all the left-handers for the Yankees, the lowest ERA was yours. You had a lower ERA in the old Yankee Stadium than any other left-hander, including Whitey Ford, who you beat out by three percentage points.
Right, I couldn't believe that. And it even goes further than that, Ralph. It's all pitchers, even right-handers. So even
I didn't know that. That's
I know.
Yankees weren't famous for a lot of for their pitching, given their unbelievable hitting. But so that includes people like Bob Turley and Scarborough and all these guys. Fritz, pretty good, man. See, I'm a good producer, right?
You sure are. In fact, Marty Appel once told me, he said when they announced that in 2008, the ERA thing, Marty Appel said, that's an OMG moment. And I said, what does that mean? He said, oh my God.
Oh my God.
I didn't even know they kept that stat, Ralph. And then my attorney happened to be at that game, and he called me and he says, hey, guess who had the lowest ERA and career ERA in the history of Yankee Stadium? I said, I don't know, Whitey Ford, or he said, no, it was you. I said, get out of here.
Oh my God, indeed. That's very, very cool. Two things. I want you to tell me, see, you went through the Yankee years when the transition was going on. I mean,
yes.
It was the end of the dynasties. The two players that represent that more than anything were two very underrated players as far as I was concerned, Horace Clarke and Jake Gibbs. Can you tell me something about those guys and that they were more solid than people give credit for?
You know, oddly enough, Ralph, and you're probably not going to like this because you do seem to appreciate Horace. Horace was a wonderful and is a wonderful guy. He always stayed in shape. He was always taking extra hitting and extra fielding and all that. But the one thing that the pitchers on the Yankees didn't like was that he had some propensity to get out of the way of a base runner at second base. And he didn't turn as many double plays as he really should have. And so that, when you said Horace Clarke, I didn't know where you were coming from, but he certainly is a wonderful guy, and he did stay in shape. It just was that little thing that we notice all the time.
You're very diplomatic, Fritz. I can just see you turning around to watch the impending double play, and there's Horace not turning it. And after all these years, you gave me a good answer. It wasn't, oh, yes. That was
on the other hand, Jake Gibbs, whose little nickname is Sonny, really, really wonderful guy. And just I'll tell you a little story about what he did for me up in Boston on the last day of the season in 1970. And this will kind of show you what kind of guy Jake Gibbs is. Thurman Munson would have been and was the Rookie of the Year that year, and he was hitting .302 on the last game of the season in Boston. And Ralph Houck didn't want him to take a chance in getting under 300 because he knew that Thurman would be a shoo-in for the Rookie of the Year if he stayed over 300. So Ralph called Jake Gibbs, and he said, Jake, I got a little problem here. And he said, what, Skip? And Ralph said, well, I got Thurman hitting .302 now, and he's going to be the Rookie of the Year, and I really don't want him to go under 300 if the game goes long and he goes 0 for 5 or something like that. And Jake said, put me in, Coach. And you know what? Jake was hitting .301 at the same time. Can you believe that? Never did hit 300. And he did end up hitting 300 that year, and thank the Lord for it because he's just a great guy.
He was a quarterback at Ole Miss, if I remember correctly.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Good memories, Fritz. How'd you get
Sure.
signed for ball? Was it out of high school? Was it?
No, I actually got signed out of college. I went to Northern Illinois University, not a big sports school, but it was Division I school, and I ended up having a really, really good year my junior year. And I decided that you could sign at that time. I decided to sign in case I got arm trouble in my senior year, because I really wanted to play pro ball, which is something I never thought I could. Now I tried to sign with my dad sent a telegram, they had those in those days, to the White Sox saying I was going to be trying out at Comiskey Park there in Chicago in 1963, and they weren't interested. But the Yankees were, and so was Kansas City, and I ended up signing with the Yankees and never been sorry since, even though they never won a pennant when I was there.
You want to get into what the circumstances are for you going to Cleveland? It's up to you.
Oh, sure. That's fine.
All right.
Okay.
You're going along great. You won 20 games. You were an All-Star in 1970. And you're not robots. None of us are. So personal stuff comes into play. Life itself comes into play. We're talking about the years of, for this country, it was an overwhelming change period in life where, the Vietnam War was going on, the women's thing, Summer of Love had just passed, and you're a married man, traditional married guy, and you want to take it?
Sure. It was something that we never really discussed. Mike Kekich was traded to the Yankees in 1969, and so we had gotten to know each other quite well. We were roommates, and we spent a lot of time with the families together because our kids were both the same ages, and it just it was one of those things that was not planned, and we just kind of fell for each other's wife. Mike first, and he even told his wife that he loved Marilyn, my ex-wife, and I couldn't believe he'd say something like that, but he did. And it grew from there to the point where one night we were at a party at Maury Allen's house during the summer. It was on July 15th. I remember that exact day. And my wife and I drove our separate car, and we met Mike and Susan, his wife, in front of Maury's house that night, just by chance. And we walked in together, and we sat down, had some drinks and some hot dogs and hamburgers, and had a great time. Ron Swoboda was there, who I think you probably know.
Played with the Yankees as well as the Mets.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. And what a wonderful guy, even though he was on the Mets. But
and you're a wonderful guy, even though every 5 minutes you grudge me with a needle. I like it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You're probably saving a big dagger up for me later.
Actually, this is the dagger if you think about it, but you're handling this with aplomb, and it doesn't. What you're saying basically is, well, go ahead, and then I'll give you my reaction. Is that you haven't let that affect your life, it define you as what you are. You have enough self-confidence and enough great memories and what have you that, hey, that's just the way it is, and the way you're talking about it is beautiful. I really appreciate that. Go ahead.
Well, I don't mind talking about it. Now, my wife does not like talking about it. It's a very sensitive issue to her. And, in fact, she hopes the movie that they're supposed to make soon that Warner Brothers is working on, she hopes it does not come out. I hope it does come out because it was truly a love story like they say they're going to make it. And every time I think about it, every time I read something, I get those kind of feelings and memories of those years when this was going on that nobody else really knew. But it wasn't a game. It was just a real thing. It wasn't planned. It just happened. And personally, I'm very, very happy that it did happen, because we've been married for over 40 years now, and we party.
Wow.
We try to party every day and every night if we can. But it just, as I say, the movie, if and when it comes out, it's going to be called The Trade. It will show what really happened. I'm sure they're going to have some Hollywood things implanted in there, but from that night that I mentioned to you, the 15th of July of 1972, we were still. I'm jumping around here because I'm thinking too fast. We were in the race that year. It was a strike-shortened season, and we were in the race all year long. But from July the 15th through the end of the season, I didn't remember one game that we played, and I pitched some really good games in that time, and including my last game of the year when I lost an 11-inning game to Gaylord Perry 2-1. But the feelings were going so awry, like a Twilight Zone, that I don't even remember that game, much less that we were in almost tied for first 4 different times that year. And I'm doing a short book on that one called The Lost Season, and that's really interesting. And it's
now the movie that's being made is based on the book that you wrote. You want to tell me about that?
No, it isn't, Ralph. It's actually, I went out to Hollywood for 3 days and met with a screenwriter, David Mandel, a super guy out there. You might even know him. But
I don't, but I know Maury Allen really well, and if he's your friend, I know he rated the book that you did write as being funnier than Jim Bouton's book.
That's odd, because I said some things that were not too funny about Maury in there. Some of the things that he didn't check on. But Maury was a nice guy, and his wife also. And before he died, I think he died in 2010 maybe, right. We had made amends then. I had some hard feelings for saying some things that weren't true, but we worked it out, and it all started at his house. That was true. And it's still going on.
Is there anything in the book? Is there anything in the book that you wish you had included, or maybe been edited out, and you wish it hadn't? And conversely, is there anything in the book besides the Maury remarks that
no?
have second thoughts about?
That was
even
my first book. What's that? I'm sorry?
Pardon? No, I didn't say anything.
Okay. That was the first book I did, that one called Mickey Mantle is Going to Heaven. And that was just done because I thought I was going to die of prostate cancer within a year. And I just wanted to get some things off my mind, things that were not properly said in the media and stuff like that. But that's not a really, really great book. It was a fun book, but the one I just finished, and I'm editing right even before I made the call to you today, called When the Yankees Were on the Fritz, that one's got everything in there. That's got a lot of stuff about our situation, and especially year to year on the field and off. And I think it's going to be exciting. I'll send you a copy when it gets printed. It should be out to print in about a week or two. And
you'll autograph it with your apologies to a wonderful Met fan.
Yes, I will.
Okay, that's a subliminal thing that I mean, someday you'll think, what should I say nice on this thing? You're courageous to talk about your personal life. My life at that time in the 70s, and we talked about this a couple of weeks ago when we initially spoke, I lived with, my wife and I lived with another couple for 6 years, much in the same way that you guys were together, except we didn't have children, and we were together full time for 6 years. There were a series of books by a fellow named Robert Rimmer. I don't know if you've ever read anything by him that I read when I was a kid. Well, The Rebellion of Yale Merritt, and a few others that I just can't think of. But it depicts alternative relationships. And especially back then, you were flying against the church, the state,
right.
People's sensibilities. You're a courageous gentleman. I say that sincerely because I know what you went through. I know how other people misperceived my relationship, and so I'm sure that you got a lot of the same thing. Tell me about some of the way fans treated you on the road when you were going through this, because it's public.
Well,
this is right in the midst of your career. Go ahead.
Right, and the main thing that was kind of the most startling thing that happened was after when this finally got into the media on March 5th of 1973, I was holding out because I didn't feel like the Yankees gave me the raise that I should have had. I had 5 really, really good years in a row. And so I had no choice, I felt then, to hold out. And during that time, you know, we did have a press conference at Yankee Stadium down in Fort Lauderdale, and we told what had happened, and which was a blockbuster in itself. And I remember going to bed that night with my new wife, who I wasn't married to yet, but I said before we went to sleep, I had a clock TV that would turn on whenever you wanted to, just like a clock radio. And I told her the night before, I said, this is either going to be really big or it's going to be nothing. And so I woke up, the alarm went off, but the TV came on at 9 o'clock, and I saw my picture on there. And I said, it's big. And it was big. And
you kind of, I'll bet you kind of liked throwing it in society's face on some level, because they weren't understanding. They weren't going to understand, so you might as well be you anyway.
Exactly.
All right, I know, I could tell.
My first game, I was, when I did sign finally, my first start was going to be in St. Petersburg against your buddies, the Mets. And, of course, that was the worst team I could be against at the time, with the media flurrying up and everything. And so they announced me from the microphone that I was the starting pitcher. I got a real hefty round of boos on that one. And then when I went out to the mound to start the game, I got another one. And then the third one, and the biggest, was I got up to bat, because we still hit in those days. That was 73. That was in a National League ballpark. And I got a base hit, and then on the next play got forced out at second and had to walk a semi-run all the way in from second base to our dugout, at which time I got a standing room boo from everybody in that stadium, and they were just emptying their closets for all time right on me. And I mean, it was eerie and nasty.
I'm sorry on behalf of Americana.
Oh,
I mean,
thanks.
That's not right. You're an entertainer. You're a ball player. You're a world-class athlete with a personal life. I don't like that.
Well, thank you very much for that, Ralph. I got a lot of fan mail, obviously, but believe it or not, about 9 out of 10 of them were pro what I did. And I wasn't trying to lead a mission or anything. I just was like living life, like you said. But it was, I wished I'd have saved those, but we weren't doing this for a show. We were doing it for real. So I got rid of all those letters, but I kind of wish I had them, because it'd be amazing to read them now.
Yeah, good, bad, and indifferent. I'm sure you got some that supported you.
Oh, most of them.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. Those were the people that were. Yeah, they weren't at the game that I got booed in.
They'll boo you, but they wouldn't take the time to articulate why they're booing you in a letter.
Right.
But
exactly. They were emptying closets.
Right. Hey, Marty used to do the old timers game, and he'd bring in Yankee Stadium was famous for that. The Yankees were. They would bring in all these guys. I mean, great, and sometimes all-star teams of the American League to have a little game against the Yankees. Can you give me some of your memories of meeting some folks that?
Oh yeah,
came through that
was. After I was out of baseball for a lot of years and now doing research for books I'm writing, I realized how great those people that came into our dugout were, that I didn't even know their names. I mean, all of them, everyone, you know them better than I do. But these guys, after I've seen their stats now and compare them with mine, I wasn't even on the team compared to these guys. But it was amazing to see.
Well, that's being unduly modest because you were an all-star pitcher, you were a 20-game winner, and you had the lowest ERA ever in Yankee Stadium. So,
yeah.
So there will be people when you go back to. Do you go back to old timers games now?
Yes, I do. I'd love to go to all of them, but they just have certain themes once in a while, and they bring back players that fit that different theme. But,
I got you.
What's that?
I got sirens going off. I don't know if the show was so hot that they had to call in the fire department.
Yeah.
Fritzy's on, ladies and gentlemen. I'm gonna give you something. What was your number again? I forget.
Number 19.
Okay. Oh, you had Bob Turley's number.
I did.
He left. All right. So here I go. Listen. Now batting for the Yankees against the Mets. Number 19, Fritz Peterson. Number 19.
Wow. That is good. Bob Shepard Jr.
Wow. Thank you. That's high praise. Because you heard the voice a lot of times.
Oh, yeah.
Mickey says that he tingled when he heard the voice. And Bob Shepard said that he tingled when he introduced Mickey.
That's funny. A double tingle.
A double tingle. I thought his voice was incredible, and it just puts the memories together. And I do his voice. Now looking for his keys, Zig Tyko.
That's good. That is good.
All right. I'm glad you enjoyed that. Who was somebody that came back whose name you did recognize that you chatted with in those days?
Joe DiMaggio.
Wow.
Yeah, that was always fun to watch because at the time we even as old timers, even though one time I was the youngest old timer there, but we'd share the same clubhouse as the regular Yankees. Now they don't even share the same clubhouses even for old timers games. But it was fun to watch these guys come in and sit in little circles and talk like they were still back in their days in the 50s and the 40s, and it was really neat. And again, I mentioned earlier, I wished I knew more of what those guys all did because I was sitting right in the middle of them and didn't even know what I was in the middle of. But it was really, really fun. And to see Don Larson there and Moose Schauer and Hank Bauer and just everyone you can name, and being in the same group with them, feeling like a rookie, and even though I've already been there for 11 years.
Wow. That's now talk about tingle. I'm getting secondhand tingling. That's very cool. And cool that you're back there for old timers days and you carry on the tradition. Did Cleveland and Texas pall by comparison in terms of day-to-day
you know what, Ralph, they were like summer baseball teams compared to the Yankees. And at the time, I was somewhat glad to get out of town in New York because it was the stress was pretty big and the media was pretty hot. Even though the fans were really good to me, even other than Boston, the road fans were good. So I was very happy about that.
Yeah, well, Boston, It's a very strange city. Thinking about those fans and what they did to Bill Russell in terms of accepting him in their community graciously.
Wow.
I'm not big on Boston, but that's the way it goes. Hey, Fritz,
Yeah.
Thank you for being here, man. This was
my pleasure, Ralph. It was great.
I want to ask you one question that I try to ask the people who write books. What's your writing process like? Do you look at it as a job where every day you get up, or do you write when something hits you? How's that?
Right now, my first book that I did, I wanted to get it out, to get some of the things straightened out that I felt were done improperly in the media. So that was kind of a rush job, and it was kind of just one chapter after another with no real meaning. This last one that I just actually finished editing today, I think the final edit, it was more of a planned thing. It goes along, I have like 9 innings in it, which are 9 years that I was with the Yankees, and I call them first inning, second inning, blah, 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 all the way through. Cool. And then I kind of show why we couldn't have won in those years, and then I pick out a few different people that really made an impression on me one way or the other, bad or good or great or terrible or whatever. And that was kind of fun. I might get in trouble from some of the players with that because I tell some things, I mean, not stuff you'd share with your family. That stays away. I don't ever like to touch that stuff. But things that were controversial, and some of them aren't going to like it. But I've had it taken out on me, so they can handle a little bit of it. But it was a fun book. It took me like 2.5 years to write. The editing, you ask about books, I don't like the editing, but I want to do it myself because it stays myself then. It's like I'm talking to somebody sitting next to me in the dugout rather than have some polished ghostwriter do it for me. So that's the part that's tedious, but I realize now that I'm going to try to get it out there as well as I can so people can have fun with it and remember about the good old Yankees. Heck with the Mets. One last needle, huh?
Yeah, one last needle. I'm ready for it. This time I was so ready, I was armored. I went to the closet, I got out pads, I was ready for that needle. But it still got me. I just want you to know.
Excellent. What a guy.
Heat. You heard that, I hope.
I did.
All right, my friend.
Okay.
Thank you again for being here. I am going to end the segment like I do every segment, and I implore you, Fritz Peterson, to keep your humor dry, keep your dreams wet, keep your kids out of recruiting stations. Military recruiting stations are bad, fucks up the whole family, and keep kids off the laps of clerics wearing dresses. And I hope you had fun. I hope you'll be back.
I did, Ralph. Anytime. Thank you.
All right, my friend. See you soon, Fritzy.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.